Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the July 24th PSTA Finance Committee meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is 9 a.m. I am Dan Saraki, your committee chair representing the city of Oldsmar. Let's go around the room and introduce the other PSTA board members on this committee. We'll start with you, Tom.
Tom Reed, Commissioner, City of South Pasadena, and Vice Chair.
Dave Eggers, Pinellas County Commissioner.
Vince Cox, Pinellas County Commissioner.
I need to make a motion. I'm looking for a motion to allow Josh Schulman to participate via Zoom. Do I have a motion?
Move to disapprove. No, kidding. Good morning, Josh. Move approval.
Good morning, I vote no.
All right, I need a second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Do we have any?
I don't have anything.
All right. Next, we're going to start with our action items. Approve the minutes from the June 19th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
I have a motion. Of a second.
Second.
Any other discussion on this item? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 3B is the Sunrunner Station construction. Abhishek Dayal, Director of Project Management, will talk about two contracts for the new Sunrunner Station construction. Abhishek, you have the floor.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and Finance Committee members. I'm Abhishek Dayal, I'm the Director of Project Management here at PSTA. I'm highly motivated and super excited about this item. This is it's a two-part action item regarding our newest Sunrunner station at First Street North. So the two actions that we're requesting today, one is the approval of an amendment to our existing contract with David Nelson Construction Company to construct this station at a cost not to exceed $780,000. And this includes a 10% contingency for that construction. And then the second part is the approval of a construction manager contract with HDR Inc. This is through the on-call project management, construction management services contract that the committee voted on a couple of months ago. Through that contract, we would like to issue a task order to HDR to oversee the construction of this new station at a not to exceed cost of $185,000. So if you recall, we started planning for the Sunrunner many years ago. At that time, the pier was not in existence, and since then, since we opened, the pier has been a major tourist attraction, attracting lots of residents, tourists to this location. Lots of people get to the pier. One of the things that we heard since Sunrunner opened was it's too far from the Sunrunner stations to get to the pier. It takes about a half a mile walk from the closest station. The closest station is either at 5th Street North or 3rd Street South by Publix, and it's about a half mile, sometimes even longer walk to the entrance to the pier. So one of the things that we are looking to do is bring the Sunrunner closer to the pier. So that residents and tourists can actually access the pier more easily. And we also heard during the board workshop during the budget session that getting more tourists into our public transportation services, increasing ridership was a big priority for the board. So this actually meets those requirements. So we think that this is another reason as to why we need to put a station closer to the pier. And the good news is that no additional operating expenses are anticipated by adding this pier stop. We can still serve this location along with the other remaining 30 stations at 15-minute frequency so that people can enjoy that frequent, reliable service that they expect now from the Sunrunner. More good news, this is 100% paid for with the savings that we realized when we built the Sunrunner. If you recall, the project was completed at significant savings with $5.3 million that were saved. We actually gave back 1.9 million to the federal government of those 5.3 million. And the federal government, they actually used it to fund other projects from around the country, other transit projects, using our 1.9 million. The balance can only be spent on Sunrunner. We cannot use it for anything else. It has to be on the Sunrunner project. So, and again, no impacts to PSTA budget. I'm not asking Debbie for any funding, so that's why we think this is a great opportunity to enhance the service, expand the ridership to tourists, to newer destinations along the corridor. Now, since 2020, when we received the bids from David Nelson Construction Company, things have changed very significantly. Back in 2020, when we got the bid, the current proposal that we got from Nelson Construction, the cost to build the station is twice as high as what we did back in 2020, which we looked at the market conditions. We talked to several entities from within Pinellas County, including the county, who have lots of public works projects. We also talked to FDOT, City of St. Petersburg, who also have their projects that they're looking to bid out, and pretty much the consensus was that prices are high, labor costs are high and growing, materials costs are high, they're in very short supply. We also did a research on the engineering news record to see what the market indices are doing in terms of materials cost index, building cost index, how they have grown from 2020 when we received the bids from Nelson Construction, and they are significantly higher than what they were back in 2020. The other factor here to consider is when we awarded a contract to Nelson Construction back in 2020, they had 30 stations to build, so there was more economies of scale at the time, so they were able to spread those costs across 30 stations. Now they're only building one station, so it's harder to spread your costs across multiple pieces of work. So we looked at those factors, and we felt that the amendment to their contract is a faster way and a lower cost way to build this station than to bid it out, simply because we'll likely get higher bids from other bidders. So with that, the action again requested is a two-part action. I recommend approval of the amendment to Nelson's contract to add $780,000 to their contract. And then the second item is to approve a task order to HDR Inc. for construction management services. I should point out, Mr. Chair, that both of these teams were part of the original Sunrunner project that helped us realize those $5.3 million savings. They're both very familiar with the project, very familiar with the conditions, and so I feel very confident in those two teams in doing a really good job. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Thank you very much. Questions? Commissioner Eggerts, why don't you go first?
Yes, thank you for the report. So what were the costs per station before? Well, I mean, you've explained why it's higher. What were they? Do you remember?
Commissioner Eggers, the costs varied from station to station, but on an average, they were about $450,000. That included some of the special conditions. In some cases, we had to, relocate utilities, move trees, add landscaping, that kind of stuff. So all said and done, about $450,000 is.
And this one is more expensive than normal or less expensive? Forget the cost, but just the complexity of the construction.
It was at par with one of the stations in downtown St. Pete, which is kind of what we used as a comparison to see what it would be.
And then the $185,000, was that used last time as well? Or was that just recently used? I mean, do we have something like construction management on those projects?
Yes, we did. Yes, HDR actually did the construction management.
On that project?
On that project.
Oh, okay, all right. And the cost then?
The cost was pretty much on par with the We looked at the number of hours, the level of effort that they use to oversee that, and it's very similar.
And that was my last question, which was how many hours of work equals 185,000? Roughly, are they telling?
We assumed 3 months of oversight for construction, and that includes not only the inspection, material testing, but also reports, any change orders that they would engage with the contractor, and then the contract closeout process.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Reed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Abhishek, the 185, is that part of the remaining 3.4 roughly that we've got in federal funds dedicated solely for the Sunrunner?
Yes.
Okay. And then what's the timetable we're looking at for construction to start and be ready for the station to open?
So we are targeting August to start the works, to get the contractor mobilized. Like I said, they are very familiar with the project and the complexities.
Mhm.
So they've told us that they can mobilize here pretty quickly. 3 months is, the time frame is what we are looking for their construction, the big part of the construction to be completed.
But possibly by the end of the year, the station could be part of the
Yes.
31 running stations.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Answers my questions.
Yep. Mr. Schulman, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Not really a question, Abhishek, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to highlight the fact that in this project, we returned almost $2 million back to the federal government. I think that's a huge win, and it shows us not only doing well with the funds that we received, but being a good steward in the global picture as far as the country is concerned. So I know there's been a concern of other board members. I just wanted to congratulate the team for making that happen.
All right, thank you. I just have one comment. I think that this stop is gonna be fantastic, because I personally had family coming from out of town, and we got off at Third Street, and we walked that half mile to the pier. So I know all about it, and it was hot. All I can say is that, but so I think this is a great project, and I agree with Mr. Schulman that Josh said about the $1.9 million back to the federal government. I think that's wonderful. Great job. Any other comments, any questions? All right, I need a motion for approval.
Motion to recommend.
Recommend?
It has to go to the board, next week, right?
Oh, okay. It says, do I have a motion for recommend approval for the contracts? Anybody want to make?
Move approval?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, I got a motion from Josh. I'm looking for a second.
I'll second Josh's.
There you go. I have a second.
Motion.
Any other discussion on this item? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank
you very much. You have a check. Great job. Item 3C is trash and recycling contract. Next is Harry, Director of Maintenance, and Al Burns, Director of Procurement, who will present the contract for trash and recycling services. Henry, you have the floor.
Good morning. Not as exciting as Sunrunner, but still an important action item. This is to recommend approval of awarding a contract to Waste Management to trash removal service here at our campus and recycling services. Al, you want to take it away?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. Al Burns, your highly motivated procurement director. In April of this year, I brought before you a similar contract with a company called Waste Pro. After you voted unanimously for approval of that contract, we went and we did a deep dive on the contract from that other municipality, and we found that it was not in compliance with our procurement policies and procedures. Therefore, we withdrew that, and it did not go before the board. Since then, we went and we looked at another contracting vehicle, and we discovered that the Pinellas County Board of Commissioners had a contract with Waste Pro. And I am happy to say that the Pinellas County contract is 100% compliant with our policies and our procedures, with our procurement policies. The contract with Waste Pro has been totally vetted with BMO. This action item is for the same length of time and the same dollar amount as the one we brought to you before in April.
Waste management, right?
Waste Management.
Yes.
You said Waste Pro.
You're saying Waste Pro.
I just want to make sure.
In April, I brought a contract to you.
No, but you said just recently, just in the last sentence there, that you were, the county uses waste.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
I just want to
apologize.
make sure that we're.
Yeah, excuse me, Pinellas County uses waste management.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
sorry,
No,
sorry
no,
for that
fine.
error. And it is that contract with waste management is 100% compliant with PSTA's procurement policies. I apologize for that. We've done a responsibility check on waste management. And everything is above board and it came back clean. The fiscal impact of this contract is funded by operating funds. And Mr. Chair, the recommendation is recommend approval of a 2-year contract with 2 one-year options for trash and recycling services with waste management for a total contract amount not to exceed $300,000 and authorize the CEO to exercise the 2 one-year options. If there are any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them. Yes, sir.
Just,
Commissioner Eggers,
yeah,
go
just
ahead.
clarification on the, is it 2-year contract for the 300,000, or is it 4-year contract for the 300,000?
4.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Move approval.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Josh, did you have any questions or comments? No? All right, I have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, motion passes. Great job.
Thank you, sir.
Next item is 3D Homeless Energy Project. Bonnie Epstein, Director of Mobility, will present a new TD funding agreement. Bonnie, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Good morning, Finance Committee. I'm Bonnie Epstein, the Director of Mobility, and the action item I have for you today is to approve a new TD funding agreement with the Homeless Emergency Project at a total cost not to exceed $2.2 million over 4 years, and authorize the CEO to exercise the 2 one-year options. So some of you recall, PSTA is the Community Transportation Coordinator for Pinellas County. We receive funds from the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged, and we use this funding to cover TD bus passes, TD door-to-door rides, but we also use this funding for nonprofit agencies who provide transportation to riders that qualify for TD. At the county level, the local coordinating board approves these nonprofit agencies to receive funding from the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged. And these funds pass through PSTA to the agencies who provide these TD rides. So the local coordinating board has already approved the Homeless Emergency Project to be a funded nonprofit agency. We already have 3 other nonprofits that receive funding through this pass-through with the Trip and Equipment Grant through the CTD, or Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged. Again, these funds are just passing through from the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged to Homeless Emergency Project. So the not to exceed amount is not a guarantee, but it'll be dependent on how much funding we receive through the Trip and Equipment Grant from the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged. My team has worked with the Homeless Emergency Project for about 4 years, approving their TD bus passes for their riders. They've been great to work with. They provide the data and documentation we need to do all of our reporting. So the initial allocation amount that we have for the Homeless Emergency Project is the same that we have for Neighborly Care Network. That's one of the other funded nonprofits. And this is based off of demonstrated need that they're currently providing to their transportation disadvantaged customers. So again, our request is for you to approve a new TD funding agreement with the Homeless Emergency Project at a total cost not to exceed $2.2 million, and authorize the CEO to exercise the 2 one-year options. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Bonnie?
Yeah, just the same question I asked a minute ago on the 2.2 million, that's over 6 years, right?
It's over 4 years.
So it's different than the last conversation I had with the last question I asked was it over including the option period?
Yeah, it'll be including the option years. So it's Al, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 2-year base and then 2 one-year options.
That is correct.
So yeah, this one covers the option
Okay,
year.
so it's a 2-year contract with 2 one-year options.
Yeah, for a total of 4
So
years.
4 years,
Yes.
okay, all right, for the 2.2 million.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
And it's not, they're not gonna automatically get 2.2, they have to provide the rides, that's an up to,
Yeah,
Yeah, not to exceed.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Mr. Schulman, you have any questions for Bonnie? Nope, we're good. All right, then I will entertain a motion to approve the contract.
Move approval.
I have a motion, how about a second?
A second.
I have a second by Mr. Cox, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. Next is 3E Armor Car Contract Extension. Al is next to talk about the contract extension for Armored Car Services. Al?
Mr. Chair, Al Burns, Director of Procurement again. Just a little bit of background on what the Armored Car Service is. We use the Armored Car Service to transport our money from not only PSTA, but also our transit facilities. They'll take it from our transit facilities, bring it here, and then from here, they'll take it to our financial institution, which is Synovus Bank. The contract is required to have all the licenses that are associated with being able to carry money or provide armored car service. Mr. Chair, just a point to put emphasis on. Yesterday around 5:30, I just received the documents to go back out for bid for these services. Staff put together the solicitation, we sent it to BMO, and BMO just returned those with very minor changes. In May of 19, we issued an RFP, and it was in compliance with everything, with our policies and procedures. And at the end of the day, we awarded a contract with Mid Armored and ATM Services, Inc. Mid Florida Armored and ATM Services, their proposal is considered to be fair and reasonable. They're not escalating any of their pricing or anything. It's just that we need this extension to go out to bid or go through the solicitation process. This solicitation that we're doing, it's unique. It has some new features in it for outsourcing portions of our account room or the money room that is operated by staff. So it's just taking us a little bit longer than normal to put this solicitation together. The fiscal impact of this is funded by operating funds. The amount that was awarded in the original contract, we have not exceeded it or anything like that. This is strictly for a time extension. It has no fiscal impact. The recommendation is recommend approval of a 30-day extension with Mid-Florida Armored and ATM Services for a revised contract date of October 1st, 2024. If there is any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions? Josh? Oh, go ahead, Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Al, Armored Car Services, I mean, I've only been on the board here for a few months, but it seems like that would be something that would be continuously going down, the need for, considering the move to cashless, or am I missing something here? I'm not saying we don't need it, I'm just curious, is it a need that's decreasing?
I'll defer.
Overall, we've had less cash. I'll be talking a little bit later, but effective January 1st, we got rid of our MagStripe cards, so we've seen a little bit of uptick in cash as people are transitioning to Flamingo.
Okay.
We've seen a huge increase in Flamingo. One of the things, as Al mentioned, that we're looking to do as part of this solicitation is see, is it economically beneficial to PSTA to outsource all of our revenue room functions? Basically, all the cash, they would pick it up and take it to the bank. None of our people would be involved other than just visually being there, somebody being there to ensure that it's getting where it needs to be. I don't know if that's to our benefit or not until we go through this solicitation, but it's an avenue I want to look at on the outsourcing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Josh, any questions? Nope. All right, then I will entertain a motion for approval for the contract extension.
So moved.
I have a motion, how about a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is 3F, ridership data transfer upgrade. Contract modification for ridership data transfer services. Planning and, is it
Devin.
Devin, sorry, Devin, thank you. Planning and data manager, and Al Burns will take us through this item. Devin, you have the floor.
Good morning, Finance Committee. Devin Deal, Planning and Data Analyst Manager. So this project is related to our automated passenger counters and how the data is uploaded and transferred. Currently, the buses pull into the yard, and based on where they park, the data uploads at night via Wi-Fi. There's a lot of manual oversight that goes into that process to make sure things go smoothly, coordination with maintenance, IT, and planning. And we have generally a few-day lag in the availability of our data. What this upgrade would do is move the data transfer to cellular and upload it to a server on the cloud instead of on-site at PSTA. So this would allow for real-time tracking of our data, no delay in reporting, and just generally increase the resiliency of our data. And with that, I'll turn it over to Al.
Thank you, Devin. Planning brought this to me and this option to me to improve the service of the APC system. And we received a quote from the vendor that we have called UTA, or Urban Transportation Associates. I entered into negotiations with them on their quote and was able to get a 15% reduction on the quote. The reason for the short time of this addition is because the contract for UTA expires in 2025. So this is for the implementation and basically 1 year of monitoring or upgrades, or if they have any issues with the system, for 1 year. Next year in FY 2025, I'll be bringing back to you our traditional contract for about a 3-year with 2 1-year options, or at the end of the day, a 5-year contract. The fiscal impact of this is that the actual upgrade is being funded by grant dollars, by FTA dollars. The operating funds, which is the $26,800, that's for next year, is from operating funds. Mr. Chair, the recommendation that staff brings before you is recommend approval of an additional $95,000 to be added to the existing contract with Urban Transportation Associates, UTA, for a revised not to exceed amount of $255,000. Mr. Chair, we couldn't do this in a vacuum because it would have, the $95,000 would have exceeded the amount that the board authorized. Therefore, we have to bring it back to you for authorization. If there's any questions, Devin and I would be more than happy to answer them.
All right, any questions? Mr. Rickards?
So I'm just having trouble with numbers today, so forgive me.
No worries, sir.
So you're asking for additional $95,000 to be, that's included in the 255 total?
Yes, sir.
So the contract was only for 160,000?
Yes, sir. I'd have to look, or staff would
And
probably.
that was over what period of time, that 160?
5 years.
Okay, all right, so it's just the operating cost normally?
Yes, sir.
So this, going forward, that 67 will just be a one-time deal, it's not?
Roger
When
that.
we get that new bid, we'll expect it to be closer to the.
The 26,
Yeah, okay.
yes,
All right.
sir.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? No. Josh Schuman, any questions? Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Al. And Devin, my main question relates to how does switching our data from being the way that we're doing it, which is a couple-day lag, to real time, how does that benefit riders, ridership, or the organization?
Sure. I think having data available in real time helps us when we make decisions in general. I think increasing the availability of our data and how fast it's available helps us make decisions on the fly. I know we get a lot of requests or things that we see when they come up, and this helps us address them a lot quicker than having to wait 2 to 3 to 4 days for the data to upload. And then if it doesn't upload, we have to coordinate with maintenance and IT to make sure, kind of a 5-alarm fire, drop everything to make sure we get the data uploaded properly.
Okay, so I mean, has that been an issue? I mean, $95,000 is a good chunk, and you know, we haven't been informed of this sort of issue in the past. So, has that really come up as a regular item?
It comes up and we address it internally. So whenever we do see that, we immediately start coordinating with maintenance and IT, and it's not that it is an issue that affects the integrity of our data, but it's something that we have to conduct a lot of manual oversight for to make sure that it's happening.
And Commissioner Schulman, what I would say, first of all, I mean, the one-time expense is 68,000, and I do think this, you know, going from the Wi-Fi here at the facility to cellular, so the data comes in on the ridership all the time as the buses are going around Pinellas County, sets us up for the future. I mean, you know, whether or not our own operation can know about what's, you know, how many people are on the bus, you know, at any time that they want to know, or maybe we could get that information out to the riders, you know, through the apps and stuff. That could probably, smarter people than me, but they could get that out to the riders so you could see like how if you got a seat on your bus or whatever, you know. It's just it's more reliable communication.
So are we also potentially anticipating being able to indicate to riders how full a bus is?
Yeah, I mean, with this technology, we'd be able to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I don't have any questions. Thank you so much for your presentation. Do I have a motion to recommend approval to add funds to the UTA contract? Anyone? Motion.
I'll make a motion.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Cox. I need a second. It looks like it might die. Josh, do I have a second? I do not have a second. So the motion will not pass.
We don't.
All right.
What is the preference of the committee? Would you like to take this to the board and just have the discussion there, or?
Can I
Yes.
interject something on that? Josh brought up a really good point, you know, I mean, and I'm looking here at the cost of $95,000, which verse 67 is borne by grant money, 28,000 out of operating funds. Going through fiscal year 25, is there a plan to actually evaluate this to see how well it provides the data prior to going out again, and we can get some feedback? Because I mean, I'd be willing to reconsider my position, knowing that we've got a hard look at this going forward that justifies continuing on for the, basically, unless I'm reading this wrong, it's only cost us $26,800 to investigate if this delivers what it's supposed to deliver to us. And the potential cost savings that could be associated with that data. But you can't get the information unless you go, you know, put your finger or your toe in the pool, so to speak.
Yes. So, good question, Commissioner Reed. My toe is in the pool every single day with our data. I am daily pulling dozens of reports and verifying our data, and I will personally be monitoring the integrity of this upgrade.
So we can expect, when this comes up for renewal again, that we're gonna have some hard data on how this going to cellular versus Wi-Fi has benefited, cost savings, ridership information, all that stuff.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If that's, I appreciate the answer. In that case, I'm willing to offer a second.
All right, so now we have a second. I just have a comment. I think that I would really like to see how this works personally. Real-time data to me is very important. I would like to try this, and then as Al said, he'll bring it back to us for the real contract. So great job, Devin. And I have a motion. I have a second. Josh Schuman, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one question. Is there, have we talked to any other agencies that are using or have switched to this sort of real-time passenger counter so we can get a sense of what their experience has been on how they're using that data?
No, I know in our coordination with UTA, they said they work with dozens of agencies who are employing the same method with them handling the data transfer, but I did not speak to those agencies.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I could interject, one of the things, Devin may have said this, right now when we download the data, it's hosted here locally. And with this feature right here, the data, we can make sure that it's secure because it's being hosted in the cloud, where now it's being hosted here locally, if I'm not mistaken, Devin. So that's one other measure that will bring us kind of into the new way of business models by hosting our data in the cloud versus the risk of it being hosted here locally. Just thought I'd bring that feature up, and I apologize for the redundancy.
All right, do we have any other comments or questions for staff? Josh, anything else? All right, I have a motion on the floor. I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
So we have a motion that passes 3-2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 3G Towing Services. Henry and Al will speak on a contract modification for towing services. Henry, where'd you go?
This one,
Oh,
I'll take,
okay.
Mr. Chair.
All right, you got it.
And the reason, good morning, Mr. Chair, Al Burns, your highly motivated procurement director. The reason that I'm taking this is because it is more of an administrative correction, I like to call it, an administrative correction. In 2021, we went out for bid, the service that we're using is for towing our vehicles. That doesn't happen frequently, but it does happen. Towing a bus requires specialized equipment. So it's not like you could call AAA and AAA could come pick up a bus like they would do one of our POVs or personally owned vehicles. So it has some unique features to this with towing a bus. In June 23rd of 2021, the Board of Directors awarded a contract to Pagan Towing Services. On the 23rd of September in 2021, we terminated the contract with Pagan Services because due to poor contract performance. And to be very blunt about it, they were damaging our vehicles when they were picking them up. And it was costing us more to have the vehicles repaired. In September, I issued a purchase order to Yoho Towing as a stopgap measure when we went out for bid. In October 14th, I went out for bid, and Yoho Towing was awarded that contract. In doing our internal audit earlier this month, I noticed that the amount of the purchase order had been exceeded. Mr. Chair, as you know, any contract over $100,000, I am required by board policy to bring it to you. We exceeded that $100,000 with that purchase order, and I take responsibility for that. Right now, what I'm asking for is to add monies to the existing purchase order and enough for 4 months to allow us to go out for bid for towing services. The fiscal impact of this is funded by operating funds. Mr. Chair, what I would tell you is the amount that we awarded back in 2021 was $240,000. And we have not gone over that. We have not gone over our budgeted amount, our annual budget for towing services.
It was how much? I'm sorry.
240.
240.
That was our budgeted.
5 years.
Excuse me. The 240 was what we awarded Pagan Towing back in 2021.
For how many years?
5.
5 years. So we're talking about 50 grand a year roughly.
Approximately.
That's what was in that original.
Approximately, yes, sir.
So how did we run out of money?
We have not run out of money. What I did was I spent more than I'm authorized at a staff level without bringing it to the board.
We didn't run out of money, we just switched companies. So it's, the board approved the contract with this one company called Pagan, and we've actually been using this other company called Yoho.
Yeah, and so how much was the difference in the contracts, annual contracts?
I'm sorry, sir.
The original one was done for $240,000 or $50,000 a year. The new one that you hired, the new company, are they about the same or more?
They're about the same. They're a little bit more, but we have not exceeded the $240,000 that the board authorized.
That's just illustrative, because what Al was trying to explain was, when we got rid of Pagan, he just issued purchase order, a small purchase order, and then has been adding incrementally for the last 4 years, or 3 years, since 2021, to that, we had with this other company called Yovo, and they're still under that old contract value, but they're over the 100 max. So
That he could do it at staff level.
right,
As opposed to going back and having a contract amendment and all that stuff, which is basically what we're looking at right now.
exactly.
Yes, sir, right.
It's the same dollar amounts, just how it's parsed out.
So we only need a 4-month extension.
Yes, sir, to go out to bid.
So how does that come to 165 if it's 50 a year? I'm like I said, I'm messing with numbers this morning, so
Well, you're at like 100 and something right now, and so this is.
we're at 100 what for the,
I believe, sir, we're at 114,000 currently. And excuse me,
Over the last 3 years, the purchase order that he's been incrementally adding money to as we need a tow has gotten up to 114, which is over the 100. That's what we're coming to today, to kind of retroactively prove this correction. And then he's giving himself some cushion to get up to 165 while he does the bid,
okay.
I confused you. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I told you already, I'm being easily confused this morning, so. 114 over right now is where we've gotten to, because that's what you're saying.
We spent 114,000
More
on
than the
towing over
contract.
3 years.
More than the contract allowed.
yes.
Well, we canceled the contract. We don't have a contract. We just have a PO that we're just been adding money to. And the rules of PSTA are, you can do a PO, but it has to be for less than 100,000. Because if it's with a company, if it goes over 100, then it has to go to the finance committee and the board. And this is over the 3 years. It doesn't happen that often, and then it just kind of slipped through the cracks. And then Al, in an audit recently, was looking at like, oh my gosh, this is over 100. We gotta get this up. We gotta get a contract again. That's the deal.
All right, any other questions?
So the contract is, we're over 100,000, well, on the contract.
I would say over the, short answer is I would say yes. In layman's terms, we issued a purchase order and we're $100,000 over the purchase order / contract.
Not over,
No.
reached that.
It's gonna be,
I mean, remember, you're like
Say that again.
$14,000.
We're 14,000 over the 100 board policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, can I
Oh,
get
I'm
this
sorry.
one?
I'd like
But
to
it's
hear
still
your
the same
shot.
240 or 250 that we're under. Because again, it's one pie to another pie, or they'll create big pie.
Right.
We want some pie?
All right.
Please,
We'll be talking about pie later.
maybe you can explain
Okay.
it to me.
Overall, we had gone to the board for $240,000 with the previous contractor. To date, we changed that contractor because they weren't performing. To date, we have spent $114,000, but just on purchase orders. And, we kept adding, now we're up to $114,000. The trigger for us to come back to you is $100,000. So what Al wants to do is retroactively say, hey, I'm over 100,000, we're only over by 14 today. I want a little bit more cushion to get up to the 165 to just get us through the next procurement. So we're well under what the board approved in 2021.
So at 165, we're $75,000 below budget.
We're, yes.
Okay, I got it now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does that help? Or did I just
A
muddle?
little better.
Okay.
I'm still not sure, you keep saying you were up to 100,000.
Well, we issued a purchase order for X, and we kept adding,
Right.
till we got to 100, and then we went over the 100, and that requires us to come back to you for approval to continue to use this company.
Josh Schulman, you have any questions?
No, I think Debbie's explanation makes sense. And, the other part of this is that there's no guarantee that we'll even use the additional funds that are being added. So it's it's still being billed as used. And this just is a triggering event because we see the staff's authority to give purchase of 99. We exceeded that, so no questions.
All right, that's it then? Everybody good? All right, do I have a motion to recommend approval for the modification?
Move approval.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Schulman, I need a second.
I'll second them.
All right, thank you, Vince. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much for that, Al, appreciate it. Next is, and Dave, you gotta go?
I gotta go.
All right, no problem, thank you so much, and I'm glad you're back on the board. I really appreciate all those.
Thanks for being
financial-
patient with me this morning on the numbers. Y'all have a good day.
Yes, you too. Thank you, Dave, for everything you did. Next is 3H, my favorite part. Claim settlement. Our final action item is for a claim settlement, and Diane Rendell is gonna take us through, the Director of Risk Management, will take us through this item. I can't wait to hear it.
Good morning, Diane Randall, Director of Risk Management. I am here this morning to talk about a global mediation for claim settlement and to seek approval for claim settlements in the amount not to exceed $300,000. Normally, I come to you after we have an agreement and everything's tied up in a little bow, and this is the end. In this circumstance, it's a little different because on November 19th, 2023, a 15-year-old girl darted out in front of one of our trolleys in downtown St. Pete and was severely injured. As a result of the incident, we had not only the claim for her and her parents, but also 2 people on the trolley that were injured as a result of the hard stop. So we have a total of 4 claims, all seeking damages. So as a public entity, PSTA is subject to sovereign immunity, which limits our liability to $200,000 per person, $300,000 per occurrence. What that per occurrence means is that for all 3 claims, we have a total of $300,000 to settle, but any one person can only get $200,000. So I'm asking for the settlement authority prior to the mediation because I don't want to do any kind of contingent agreements. I want to be able to go in and say, this is what we're going to settle for. It's very unlikely that we will not hit the $300,000. So it's just a way to stop the litigation expenses because 2 of the claims, the pedestrian and her parents, is a litigated claim. The other 2 are just attorney represented. So this will be a very expensive case to litigate. So I want to go this route so that we can try to resolve everything without further litigation and additional expense. So I'm asking for the settlement authority in the amount not to exceed $300,000.
Okay, this is sad, I didn't realize that. Any questions for anybody? Josh, do you have anything?
Yeah, so I originally, if I understand you, Diane, that the litigated claims that are moving forward are anticipated to be for more than the 300,000? That's what
That's what they're moving forward. They wanted to try to get more than 300,000. We're limited to the 300,000 by statute. So, but
right. So I wonder. I mean, if we're limited to 300,000 by statute, how do we get past 300,000?
Okay.
In litigation?
Okay. The only way to get past the 300,000 is a claims bill. And what's required for a claims bill is that you have to have someone in the state congressional system that supports the claims bill to take it before the whole body to approve. And generally, the first step in doing that is to have a jury trial with a verdict that is higher than the 300,000 limit. So that's how they get past it.
Understood. Thank you for that. So you're asking for us to just say that as a board, we're willing to go up to our sovereign level
Yes,
within the mediation
correct,
process.
correct.
Does that somewhat signal to the other side that we're willing to go up to 300,000? I mean, right? So I mean, isn't part of the mediation process? I mean, they know from a statutory standpoint that we're sovereignly capped at 300,000.
Yes.
So I don't know how approving a 300,000 in advance
Well, again.
gives us a better position.
Yeah, well, it comes back to the rules, because for the PSTA bylaws, I have to seek approval for anything over 25,000. So I'm just trying to prevent having an agreement and then waiting an additional 30 days to be able to complete everything, when we know that
Okay.
this is gonna happen.
So from your perspective, this just gives you the authority to mediate in good faith within that $300,000 mediation limit or sovereign immunity limit.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Maybe you can enlighten me on how this process works. So is this binding mediation? All parties are agreeing to be bound by whatever the mediator finds?
No, it's not a binding, I mean, we signed the mediation agreement, and there is a, there can be a 7-day
Okay.
period that they could change their mind. There can be no period. It's just how the mediation agreement is written.
But going forward in the way you've requested enables you to nail this down sooner rather than later without the wiggle room on the party that is pursuing the litigation once they've agreed, right? Okay.
Oh, wait, say that again?
Does this, having this approval in advance of your negotiations or mediations, if you will, eliminate any potential wiggle room should they try to change their mind
Right.
after the fact?
Exactly. That's
Well, in the
what I'm
30-day period that you'd be waiting to come to the board,
Right.
this way you've got the authority to nail it down up to 300,000, and it
Exactly.
eliminates the wiggle room.
Right.
Okay.
I
like that.
actually
Thank
even
you.
going to request that our attorney have releases ready at the mediation, that as we do, or if we do settle, that we can go ahead and get signatures on releases.
I think that makes perfect sense then.
Yeah, it gives them more incentive because it's better for them because they can have the
Yeah.
checks right then.
And this is covered by our insurance?
Yes, our excess carrier has been involved from the very beginning on this claim. I've kept them, we've been in discussions with our attorney and everything. And they are currently working through their internal processes to get the authority to go forward with it too.
Thank you very much. Any other last questions? All right, then I'm looking for a motion to approve the contract. Oh, go ahead, Josh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's not a question, I just, approving this today also is a benefit to the claimant, because they know that, what is agreed to, in the mediation is going to be approved by the board as opposed to wondering if it's going to come back. So it's an incentive for them to move forward as well.
Correct.
Yes. You want to make a motion to approve?
Move approval?
I'm looking for a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is item 4. This is not an action item, ridership performance. Devin, you have the floor again. Give us those ridership trends.
Good morning again, Finance Committee. Devin Deal, Planning and Data Analyst Manager, here to go over some operating performance highlights from May this year. So with this first slide, normally I start out with our fixed route ridership, but I kind of wanted to show the impact that our mobility and innovative and Vanpool programs have on our overall ridership. So this first slide is our system total passenger trips. And you can see we had that kind of dip going into December. That was our service change. We reduced service, and a few months after we started charging fares in the Sunrunner. And then we had a pretty big bump in January. And then after that, it exceeded our fiscal year 23 totals. Starting in January, as you know, we took over the Vanpool program, and that's about 40,000 rides a month. So that really bumped our numbers up. With Vanpool and mobility programs, those make up about 10% of our overall ridership every single month. That's our Direct Connect, Uber and Lyft programs, PSTA Access, all of those kind of innovative programs that we do. And those make up about 10% of our ridership. For our system fixed route ridership by month, this is the one that you guys normally see. you can see we did have a slight dip down in May. We do attribute most of that to the ridership loss on Summerner and the service change in December. But for May, I want to point out that even with the ridership decrease, we had 15 of our 43 fixed routes that had their highest ridership of the fiscal year in May. So that was really exciting to see. And with this slide, you've probably seen this before as well, but there's a few things that I want to highlight here. This is the slide that shows our highest ridership routes, and it would be our top 5 routes, but the Suncoast Beach Trolley with its seasonality kind of jumps in and out of the top 5. So this is our top 6 highest ridership routes. First, I want to highlight the kind of jumble right here, blue, green, and pink. Those are 3 of our core routes. In blue is Route 4, that runs from South St. Petersburg up 4th Street, up here to the PSTA complex. In hot pink, that Amanda does not like, is Route 18. That travels from Grand Central in St. Petersburg along all 19 up to Park Street Terminal in Clearwater. And the 34 in green, that travels from Eckerd College up 34th Street to Largo Transit Center. These 3 routes are pretty consistently around 50 to 60,000 rides a month, and even Route 18 in pink had its highest ridership of the fiscal year in May. The next thing I want to point out is the 52 and 52LX up top in orange. That has consistently been our highest ridership and generally best performing route for years. And that also had its highest ridership of fiscal year 24 in May. Yes, sir.
Remind me, please, Devin, where that route is located.
Oh, sorry about that. Route 52 travels from Grand Central in St. Petersburg up 49th Street and then takes East Bay through Largo up to Park Street Terminal in Clearwater.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And so Route 52 also had its highest ridership of fiscal year 24 in May. Next, I want to highlight the Suncoast Beach Trolley in red. We've pointed out the seasonality of that before, but it's again really exciting to see the even larger jump we had in spring break this year with over 90,000 rides in March. And lastly, I want to point out the Sunrunner. We introduced the Sunrunner here in October 22, and it quickly overtook Route 52 as our highest ridership route for a few months. And we also saw some of those spring break peaks on the Sunrunner, highlighting that may have some seasonality to it as well, with large increases in the spring. We implemented fares on the Sunrunner in October 2023 and saw that large dip where we lost about 40% of ridership. But on a good note, we seem to be rebounding. We, for 3 months now, have been over 70,000 rides on the Sunrunner. We're up to about 75 to 80% of the pre-fare ridership, and we're really excited to see that continually growing and recovering. And so I mentioned previously that 15 of our 43 fixed routes had their highest ridership in May. This map is all 15 of those routes. This is color-coded by frequency, so routes that come every 30 minutes or less are in red, 60 to 30 minutes are in blue, and then over 60 minutes are in green. And what I really want to highlight here is that I know Clearwater and St. Petersburg are our largest cities and probably where we have the most transit, but we had higher ridership all over the county. Our routes that are serving Seminole, Pinellas Park, the 61 in Dunedin that carries a lot of the high school students. We see all across the county, we had 15 of our routes reach their highest ridership of the fiscal year. And I think this map just really highlights kind of the connectivity of our system in general and shows that we're serving a lot more than just our major municipalities. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for staff? Josh, nothing? All right, thank you very much, Devin. Great job.
Thank you.
4B will be our monthly financial report by Judy Lippis, Director of Accounting. She will walk us through the monthly fiscal report for May 24. Julie, you have the floor. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Julie Lippis, Director of Accounting. For the month of May, we finished with a $5.5 million deficit, which was $592,000 favorable to the budgeted deficit. Revenue is $600,000 favorable to budget, driven by property tax revenue and state grants. Expenses are $8.6,000 unfavorable to budget, driven by some timing issues with the privatized transportation area. Turning to May year-to-date, we finished with a $33.9 million net surplus, which was $5.5 million favorable to the budgeted surplus. Revenue is 2.6 million, favorable to budget, with investment income and federal grants driving that. Expenses are 2.9 million, favorable to budget, with fringe benefits, service expenses, and insurance expense carrying that favorable variance. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Do you have any questions? Josh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question, looking at the month of May 2024 financial performance, how do we have a negative 107.5% under budget for revenue? Do we owe money back to someone?
The line item for non-transportation revenue being under 107.5, there were some reclasses that were done internally, moving some advertising that was fulfilling a GASB 87 requirement into a different area that made more sense in presentation of the financials. So what you're seeing there, we reclassed about 293,000, and the interest income was 148,000. So really, that would have been a positive number had the reclass not happened. So that was just an internal accounting thing that you're not going to see that going forward, but you do see it this month.
Thank you. I'm not used to seeing a negative more than 100% of loss of revenue. So I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Any other questions? Great job as always.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 4C, PSTA contracts. Debbie, CFO, will outline the PSTA contract report. Debbie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. In the report that's in your packet, we've added a little bit more detail. It's getting a little harder for me to see when I print it out. But what's important on here is we've now added some columns as it relates to the amount remaining on the contract. So we have the contract value. In the past, you've seen us talk about average spend, just basically taking the contract divided by the number of years. But what's important is the amount remaining and the percent of the contract that's been used. So this is something I think is very helpful to those of us who get this report, and also for the procurement department and any of the contract managers. So I think this request may have come from you, Commissioner Schulman, because we've got all the data in the background, but to be able to see it, it was very helpful for me to, as I looked at this report that procurement put together, say, oh my gosh, we've got nothing left. Do you want to do this? Or we're coming close to the end of a contract, not time-wise, but dollar-wise. And it's been very helpful, and so I really appreciate that improvement you asked us to do. Because I don't stay necessarily in the full weeds that procurement does, so I appreciate this. So thank you.
Any questions? Go ahead, Josh.
Thank you, Mr. Just one comment. It may be time to switch to landscape view on that report. So it is a little bit easier. I appreciate it, and I think it's wonderful.
I do too. I think it's great. Anything
Really
else?
good.
Yeah, it's great information. Great job on that. Anything else? All right, thank you, Deb. Paula's coming.
Thank you.
All right, Brad, do you have anything before I move on? Any comments from you? You've been quiet today.
Just on this contract report, I just want to give a shout out to, I don't know if they're watching, but the greatest financial consultant company name I've ever heard of is Stone Turn. Stone Turn LLC. We have a contract with them for $20,000.
Stone Turn.
It's on page 3. Anyway.
All right.
I think it's a good name for a company.
All right, well, thanks for bringing that to our attention. Anything else, guys? All right. Item 5, other business. Does any committee member have any other business to bring before this committee? Josh, you got anything over there? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, mine's actually just an operational question for Rachel. I don't know if I need to log out of this Zoom call and log into planning, or if I just continue here.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, log out, log back in.
Planning- Yes, they have, planning has a
Okay,
separate
thank you.
link.
All right. Anything else? Item 6 is adjournment. Our next meeting is August 21st at 9 a.m. Thank you, everyone, for the great presentations, for staff, and thank you all for coming. This meeting is now adjourned. Ta-da!
Nicely done. Had a good trip to Buffalo
Yeah.
and Key West.